repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source.
Mike does cracks the code tonight. Oh yeah, that's true. Wires and circuits that shine in neon lights. Oh yes, he knew. Creating power from the air, he smiled delight. Oh yeah. Mike does it right. Hey. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun. Competency's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans. Down in the basement, secrets start to glow. Oh yeah, white clean blue, not ever shop from brilliancy, not forbidden there. Spread any knowledge flow. Yeah, energy streams. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Us knowledge, guiding the sun. Competency's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans. Years of thoughts, bringing dreams to life, turning theories into electric light. Mike and us, a journey to ignite. We're gonna reach new heights. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun. Competency's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans.
And it flies back to source battery. I'll show that. And you also energize, but as soon as you turn it on, it'll start to, it will get pushed away. So it's a bifilar wrapped around a single. And what's supposed to happen here is you're energizing the drive winding from source battery. You have two coil bifilar. Oh man. I'm gonna try to explain this idea. It's only on paper for now. So this is basically, you have two coil bifilar here. One winding is a drive winding, and the other winding is not a trigger, it's a stator winding or a pickup coil. And what's supposed to happen here is you're energizing the drive winding from source battery, and it flies back to source battery. I'll show that. And you also energize when you energize the drive winding, it induces a wireless field to the stator winding above. There's two cores shown in the picture here, but it's only one core. So it's a bifilar wrapped around a single core. And in orange there you see a magnet with contacts, isolated contacts attached to the magnet. And so when you energize the drive winding, the magnet will get pushed away. So right now you're looking at this in its default state, and you can see the switch on the right is your power switch to turn it on. Until you turn that on, it'll stay off. But as soon as you turn it on, it'll start to self-oscillate or self-actuate. The orange magnet will then be pushed away from the core. In its off state, as you see now, the magnet, give me a second. So in this default state, you see the switch is open, and that keeps the circuit from operating until you close that switch. And as soon as you close that switch, the drive winding gets energized, and it will create a north field where the magnet is. And again, the magnet, its north face should be facing the core. And also in its off state, the magnet will stay attached to the core. So when you energize it, it pushes the magnet away, and when it does that, it removes power from the circuit. And by doing so, the removal of power allows the magnet to naturally return to the core of the electromagnet by magnet pull force to iron, which is free. So we're going to go to the on state, and we're going to turn this switch on here. I'm going to go over all these diodes as well and trace everything. And with luck, I won't find any more errors. Yesterday, I literally spent 12 hours on this, trying to get it right and all that. So, and I had, the diodes in the wrong place and stuff like that. So we'll go to the on state, we'll turn it on, and you can see now the switch is closed, and it's on. And it pushes the magnet away, right here, from its previous position, right there. So you turn it on, in red you see the induction to the coil, creates a north field on this side to push the magnet away, the north face of the magnet. Second here. Okay, so you turn it on, it pushes the magnet away and it turns off the power to the coil, field collapses and flies back. Going back a little bit to explain, you're giving, let me show you how the energy hits the coil. So when you turn it on, the plus goes up this way. Down this way. Let me redo this. Plus goes up this way. and down up to one side of the isolated contacts. Why is this? Okay, goes up this way. Down here. Up through the isolated contact on one side. Over to here. And here. And you get your plus from the battery on that side of the coil. And your minus is on the other contact from here to here, giving you minus. Let me try giving that another color. Let me do this real quick. That's your plus channel to energize the drive winding. Hitting right there. Of course, that diode blocks that plus from hitting the negative of the battery. And then your negative gets channeled this way. From the negative side of the coil to the other contact to negative. And that's your induction path to the drive winding. I can take that out now. Okay, so you can see the path for charging the drive winding. And when that happens, you're sending the same plus down here, the same minus down here, up to here, wirelessly through wireless induction. And when that happens, so the stator coil is picking up the forward charge to the drive coil, and it's going to send that plus back to the battery right here with the minus on the other side to here. Now all these diodes have a purpose. Aside from rectification, they also serve as blocking diodes and flyback diodes. I may have made some errors here. Some of these diodes don't have to be high voltage. For now, I'm just labeling them all high voltage diodes. So they will serve as a low voltage blocking and a high voltage pass for the flyback. So you can see here how the stator winding is sending its forward induction from the drive winding wirelessly over to the battery. So you are able to conserve that radiation back to the battery. Okay, so you can see that right there. And that's during induction. Now let me go over some of these diodes. Oh, of course, you just can see that this diode rectifies the forward induction back to the battery, and so does this one. This one does the plus, and the other one does the minus. And then we're going to go the next cycle here, which is turning. Okay, so at this point the induction to the drive coil is going to push this magnet away, because you have the north facing a north, and it pushes it away like so, and disconnects power from the drive winding like that. This is a double pole, double throw from source to load. So now you're in the flyback portion here, where the coil now flies back in inverted polarity, and this becomes a minus, this becomes a plus, and to the best of my knowledge, this coil also flies back because it was previously induced with wireless induction. So it will also fly back with a minus here and a plus here. And we're going to trace these minus and pluses. So the plus flyback from the drive winding is going to head down here. Yeah, and it's going to go through this diode here, and then through a second diode here. I will explain later why there's two diodes on this same channel, and they're both necessary. So that's your positive flying back to the positive of the battery, and here's your negative flying back to the negative of the battery. And now the battery captures that flyback, and also the other coil above it, it's positive here, flies back to the battery right here. A little bit confusing, but bear with me. Right there. Okay, there's your positive flyback channel for the upper coil, and your negative flyback channel is right here. I just want to mention Brandon from OverUnity Research Channel introduced me to a coil shorting technique, which gave me this idea. Now this is not exactly shorting the coil per se with a relay or something. I was going to do that, but I find it kind of unnecessary to use a relay to short the coil when I can just put the diodes to short the coil to the source. So you can see how the upper coil flies back to the battery as well. Now, that covers the flyback portion. Now I'm going to go over if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So this diode here is handling the forward. Hold on. This diode here is handling the forward. Let me go back to this image. This diode here is handling the forward charge to the plus of the battery, and this other diode here is handling the minus charge to the battery during induction. Now let me trace out this minus here and just show you that it doesn't go anywhere to cause any shorting or problems. It goes up here, okay, and it hits this side of the coil. And let's trace the positive here, which can go this way. It can continue on this way. head down this channel and go back up the positive leg of the relay up here over to here, and it gets blocked by that diode. If it were to go through this coil, it would come out the other end. So I'm tracing the positive of this here, positive output. If it were to go through that coil, okay, if it is to go through this coil, it comes out the other end, and it goes through these two diodes to the same positive, which doesn't harm anything. And it can also go this way, up here, up to here, to here, and back to the same positive, which does nothing. So there's no worries on this circuitry in that sense. You're just sending the positive to the positive of the battery, and it's going to pretty much stop there. But if it were to continue, it would just loop all the way around back to the positive of the battery. And it's not shorting out to negative, is my point. So you're good there. And then you trace the negative of the forward charge to this upper coil. Okay, and it goes to the battery here and pretty much should stop there. But if it were to continue through this other path, it would stop here because the diode's not biased correctly. But you also have one more path right here. Okay. And let's see where it goes. It goes through the negative terminal of the relay back to the negative of the same battery. So, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this negative here on the forward charge is going to find an easier path through this relay to negative rather than going through this diode. But I still need that diode there for the something else. I don't know. I'll find out later. So there you have that, and I'm sure by now you guys are lost and confused, but I'm going to continue regardless. So we had the positive and the negative of the forward charge, you know, on the stator coil channeling. Yeah, right. The negative won't go this way because it has to go through another coil to get back to this negative. So why would it do that? It'd rather go through the diode. Much easier. But if it were to go through the coil, to get back to the negative, it would go this way. Or it would go up this way. And where is it? It's easy for me to get lost here. Negative. The negative here, and yeah, or it can go up this way through the negative channel of the relay and through the coil. And once again, it's not going to do that. It's just going to go through the diode. But if it gets to the coil, it can head through this diode back to the same negative. Or if it gets up here, it just goes back to the same. Where is it again? If it were negative here, oh, yeah. Well, it can't go that way, right? No. What was I saying here? Yeah. So negative here. If it continues this way, it gets blocked by both these diodes. So it's a negative, right? And the diode's not biased correctly. So pretty much what I was saying there was a waste of time. But yeah, so the negative just goes straight to the negative of the battery, okay? And that handles the forward charge of the stator coil. And of course we saw the forward charge from the drive winding. Let's see where that goes. That's plus. Yeah, well that's the feed. That's the source feeding the coil. So the forward charge in the dry battery, really I don't see it going anywhere, because this diode blocks it, the plus, and so does this one. The only other path I see for the drive battery on its forward charge to go regarding the plus is down here and going back to the same plus that gave it plus. So that does nothing. So the drive winding doesn't return its charge anywhere. It just gets induced, and it returns its charge to this winding. Okay, and isolated, another coil isolated from it. And in that way, the induction to the drive winding can be conserved through the stator winding back to plus and minus, like so. Okay. And at the same time, you can use the drive winding to spin a wheel and all that, assuming the stator doesn't consume everything. But we covered the forward induction to the drive coil and its conservation and all that. And I'm going to try to get to this diode. I don't know if I covered all the diodes yet. I think so. But here we're going to cover the rest of the diodes in the flyback portion. And here you see the relay is now disconnected, the power from the circuit. And this was previously a plus on this side during forward charge, and that was a minus. Now it's going to invert, and you're going to have a minus here and a plus here. And the same thing up here. So let's trace that in green. So where does the minus flyback from the drive coil go? It goes right here, to minus. And if it were to go up, it would go nowhere because the relay's open right now. And then the plus of the flyback on the drive winding can come out this diode and go to the plus of the battery. If it were to go the other way, to the left, it would get blocked, hitting the minus by that diode. So now you see why that diode's one of the reasons for that diode. But again, if the plus flyback goes this way, and if it goes up this way, it hits the plus flyback of the stator winding, which really doesn't do anything. Okay, so you can see the plus flyback channel here for the drive winding hitting the battery. Now let's trace the flyback of the stator winding. Plus goes up here, comes down, can't get to that diode, but it can go around here. Now you know why this diode is here. Okay, I'm going to explain that. It's there to block the flyback from going up and making sure it goes down to the plus. And then the minus flyback of the stator winding can head this way to the minus. And you successfully fly back both coils to the battery. Now, trying to remember why this diode is here. It's there because this diode just took me forever to figure out where to put it. I had it everywhere and it wasn't right until I put it right there. And why is it there? Okay, so we put a plus here on the forward charge and here, right? If I remember correctly, it's to block the plus. So let's trace these two pluses on the forward charge. There's this one. And that goes back to the plus of the battery, which does nothing. So it's not that one. Let's try I can't remember why I put that diode there. Let's see here. Oh, that's why. This diode is here to block. Okay, during the induction of the drive winding, there is a path for plus to reach the stator winding and give it small amount of juice, which will interfere with its wireless pickup from the drive winding. It'll act like a field to interfere. So you don't want any field energizing this stator winding other than the field coming from the drive winding, okay? You don't want any power getting to the stator above. So what happens is the plus comes around the plus, goes up this relay all the way around here to energize the drive winding right there. It goes through the coil, okay? The plus goes through the coil, and it can go this way. I believe it was this way. Up here, down the negative contact rail of the relay, and reach negative. And that's normal. Sorry. What I was saying is this plus can get through the drive winding, hit the upper coil, and it gets there through. Trying to remember. No, it doesn't get there from there. Okay, so you have this plus from the battery hitting right here. And then let's see, I think it goes up this way. It can get through this way. And it goes through this plus channel of the relay. Okay, this is after the plus of the battery went through the drive coil below. It goes, well, actually it's before it goes to the drive winding, but yeah, so this same plus can get through here here. And it pretty much stops. Let me rewind a little bit. So how does the plus from the battery feed the stator winding? I know it does, I just can't remember where it is. You can see that you can see here how the plus from the battery gets to here. And then once it goes, if I remember correctly, it has to go through the drive winding to get to the stator winding. So it goes to the drive winding and it can't remember this. Oh. Okay, so the plus from the battery heading through the drive winding gets through the coil and it heads to the negative this way, to the battery, right? So, you know, the plus from the source goes through the drive winding below and ends up here. And from here, it can go... there it is. Okay, from here, the plus from the source, after going through the drive winding, it can head back up through this diode and this way. And if this diode is not there, it will go up through the diode. It'll go up, but the diode's there blocking the plus. But let's say that diode's not there, and the plus from the source, after going through the drive winding coil, goes up, around, and down to the negative. And that's bad news. You're just going to induce charge to the upper coil from the source, and this upper coil is not supposed to get any power from source other than wirelessly via the drive winding and the bifilar. So that's why that diode's there. It's to block the plus from source getting up, going up and down to negative. Okay? Negative. So that's why that diode's there. And I covered that diode. So unfortunately there has to be two diodes here on the flyback. Because, you know, during the flyback, it's, it flies back. So when it's induced, the relay is closed, and that channel is open. And while it's, I'm sorry, that channel is closed. And while that channel is closed, the plus from source that ends up here after going through the drive winding, I'm going to repeat this, it can go up here to this diode, around here. And if that diode is not there, it can go up, around, and down to negative. Okay? So I hope that makes some sense. It's a lot to follow, but I had to do this. So we covered the diodes. This diode is forward charge to the battery because you're going to give plus here wirelessly via the induction of the drive coil. That sends it to plus on the battery. You're going to get minus here, and then minus can get to the battery. on that wireless induction portion. And that's that covers those two diodes. These two. And the other two diodes are, you know, this will become a minus later, become a plus during flyback. This is right here. So that becomes a minus, that becomes a plus. And the same thing with the bottom. And the other diode is here to channel the minus to the battery. And the other diode here is to channel the plus to the battery. So that's these two diodes. So we covered those two, these two. And this one right here. And there's one diode left, this guy. Okay, let's go over that. That diode is for the negative flyback of the drive winding. To get to the battery. And the positive flyback, you already know. Testing 1, 2. And the stage of these two diodes. This one. So I had a little bit of an error here in that video. Where is it? Okay, so there was an error in my previous live. I'm going to correct it. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain why this diode is here. It's there to protect this coil from receiving charge, because I only want the stator coil to receive wireless charge. So how does it receive charge? Man, this is so complicated. The source battery feeds the bottom coil, the drive coil, by going through the relay on the left side and down through here, through the coil, and it goes to the left and back down to the right side of the relay to negative. And that's how the bottom coil receives charge. So the plus from the battery ends up here, as I was saying. And how does it get through here? And you don't want any charge from the battery getting to the stator coil. You just want that to be a wireless pickup coil. So this plus keeps going this way. And it goes up here through the coil. And how does it get to negative from here? This way. Okay. Goes over here. Back up to the right side of the coil. Let me do something here. When it gets here, goes, plus gets there, it goes up, and it goes to the right side of the relay, which is the negative channel. Is that right? Oh man, let me see this a little closer here. So plus gets to this point from the battery after going through the drive coil. And it can continue on to the right through here and go through the other coil, which you don't want. And how does this get to negative? Right here, see? Right there. No, that's not negative. Well, it gets to this point. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. And then it goes here. And if this diode is not there, that's why that diode's there now, to prevent this top coil from receiving charge from the battery. So the plus goes through the drive winding, you know, after it gets through here. And it goes to negative. It can go to negative, right? Anything left over can go this way. And also, before it even gets to negative, it can get here. Of course, the plus is blocked by that diode, but it can go around, okay? You can go around and go up this path where the diode is to negative. So you probably see that now. That's why the diode's there. So let me finish drawing this, tracing this line here, and you can see now. That is the path that the upper coil receives charge after the bottom coil has passed the charge from the plus of the battery. Okay, let me do that one more time because it's awfully confusing even for me. And I authored this thing. So here you go. This upper coil, without this diode there, will receive a small amount of charge after the bottom coil is charged. So the plus from the battery goes around here. Through the left side of the relay to the right side of the drive coil, and the plus of the battery continues through the drive coil and heads to ground. But so you know it's here, the plus of the battery after it goes to the drive coil ends up there, and it can come out this diode, and it can go this way. My God, how many times am I going to get confused with this thing? I'm trying to explain how this upper coil receives charge from the battery after the plus passes through this coil. So we already know the plus is here. It passes through the coil, ends up on this side. Okay, and it grounds out to negative. Once it reaches here, the plus, whatever's left over can go this way through the upper coil, back down around here, and up this diode through here to the right side of the relay and to ground. Since the diode's there, the plus cannot go to ground. Therefore, this coil will not receive leftover charge from the battery after the bottom coil passes the plus through it, which I don't want that to happen. So this diode was a big deal to get this correct. Because if you have any kind of residual charge reaching this coil from the battery, it's going to interfere with the wireless charge coming off the drive coil. This is supposed to be a wireless stator pickup coil. It's not supposed to receive any charge from the battery. So one more time, I'll show that again. So this plus here, okay, it gets channeled through the relay, the left side of the relay, over to here to feed the coil. It feeds the coil. It goes this way to ground, to negative. Once it gets here, whatever's left over in the drive coil whatever energy the drive coil didn't consume is left behind to continue on this way, up through this diode, through the other coil, the stator coil, and it can go here, up here, and if this diode is not here, it can go up on the right side of the relay, which is your negative. And that you don't want happening, because if any energy is picked up on this coil from the battery, it creates a field which then impedes the wireless field coming off the drive coil. And you don't want any field here at all. You want this coil to be empty. When this coil is radiating, you want this coil to be empty and to receive that radiation. So this diode is protecting the upper coil from receiving secondary charge. Whew. That's that. I knew I had an error in my last live explaining that, and I corrected it here again. Hope that makes sense there.
Do it! Do it!
Do it.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it! Do it!
Who is doing it?
Do it!
Do it.
All of it!
Do it.
Come on! Do it now!
And I will do the rest.